The file opens with the soft scrape of dust brushing across paper. The sound of a desert wind trapped inside an envelope for 80 years. A wartime clerk once stamped it in purple ink. WWII, Special Operations, Operation Salam, Most Secret. Inside the file lies a story so improbable that even the men who approved it assumed it would fail. Another reckless idea from a Hungarian explorer who insisted he knew the Sahara better than its sandstorms, and who believed he could slip German agents across 3,000 miles of wasteland into the heart of British Egypt. The opening imagery shows soldiers clashing, rifles cracking in a haze of North African heat. In 1942, the Desert War reached its peak. Rommel's Afrika Korps battled the British Eighth Army across a theater so vast that a single dune field could swallow an armored brigade. Supply lines stretched to breaking. Every barrel of fuel, every crate of ammunition, every ounce of intelligence mattered. And in this crucible, Berlin authorized one of the strangest missions of the entire war. Infiltrate Axis spies into Cairo by crossing the one place the British would never expect, the unmapped void of the Great Sand Sea. Tanks rumbling across Europe appear next, but in North Africa the war revolved around fuel and dust. Armored divisions drove through deserts like ships at sea. To the Abwehr, the German military intelligence service, that isolation was an opportunity. British defenses focused on the coast. Their checkpoints ringed Alexandria and Cairo. But their rear areas, deep behind the Qattara Depression and the Libyan Plateau, were considered naturally impenetrable. They had not counted on Laszlo Almasi. A ship sinks on screen echoing the supply war strangling Axis forces. German convoys from Italy were torpedoed endlessly. If spies inside Egypt could provide port schedules, convoy data, troop movements, code changes, the Afrika Korps might regain initiative. Rommel himself approved the scheme. So did Admiral Canaris, head of the Abwehr. But no one believed survival was likely. The Sahara killed well-prepared explorers in days. Almasi's mission would last weeks. The screen fills with fighters slicing through air. While aircraft dueled above Egypt, the two spies chosen for the operation, Johannes Epler and Hans-Gerd Zandstede, trained in Cairo dialect Arabic, British slang, and radio discipline. Their goal: infiltrate the British command structure, relay military secrets to Rommel, and help Axis forces break through to the Nile Delta. Bombed-out cities evoked the destruction driving both sides toward desperate measures. By spring 1942, Rommel's advance stalled. Intelligence might tip the balance. Then Allied landings appear, foreshadowing the global war tightening around the Axis. But in the desert, the German plan relied not on armies, but on one man's knowledge of forgotten caravan trails. Civilians fleeing ruined towns reflect the fragility of war in Egypt. Cairo housed diplomats, spies, smugglers, traitors, and double agents. Into this web, Almasi intended to deliver his operatives. Radio operators tapping coded signals mirror the heart of Operation Salam. British wireless intercept teams, Ultra, monitored the airwaves relentlessly. One transmission from the Sahara could expose everything. Almasi swore he would not transmit until the agents were safely delivered. Nurses tending wounded soldiers appear, symbolic of the harsh losses suffered on both sides in North Africa. Yet while battles raged at Gazala and the frontier, Almasi prepared his expedition far behind the lines. Generals bent over maps evoked the planning. The Abwehr had no route-capable vehicles until Almasi modified 2 Ford V8 desert cars, reinforced with steel, loaded with spare springs, tires, jerry cans, compasses, evaporators, water bags, and secret caches of fuel hidden at ancient oases. Next, prisoners behind barbed wire reflect the fate awaiting any captured Axis operative in North Africa. Espionage meant execution. Propaganda posters flash across the screen. Berlin celebrated Rommel as the Desert Fox. British newspapers told of impending victory. Both were wrong. The desert cared nothing for propaganda. Submarines glide into view, but their war occurred far from Almasi's world. His battlefield was silence, heat, and distances that broke lesser men. Winter battlefields appear cold, brutal. But in the Sahara, cold came at night when temperatures dropped so fast that metal cracked and engines froze. The Sahara could kill as easily as any enemy. Then a brief flash of victory celebrations, things that in 1942 remained far ahead. Operation Salam unfolded in a time when the outcome of the Desert War hung in the balance. Berlin in ruins appears years in the future, reminding us that the strange missions of 1942 were part of a long unraveling. Women in wartime factories follow, building equipment that ended up in sand seas half a world away. Artillery thunders across front lines, showing the battles Rommel fought while Almasi made his silent crossing. American and British planners preparing for future invasions appear, though in North Africa the war still hung by a thread. Bombers soar over cities, their shadows reminding us that even the largest empires can be shaken by small, unseen missions in remote deserts. Now the story contracts to its core. On April 22, 1942, Almasi left the last German outpost at Giallo Oasis. With him, Epler, Sandstede, 2 desert guides, and a convoy of battered Ford trucks. Their destination lay across 3,000 miles of terrain so deadly that even the Italian military called it geographic suicide. The first days were brutal. Sandstorms erased the horizon, temperature swings cracked the water cans, tires shredded on hidden rocks buried under sand. The navigation demanded constant recalculation, sun compass by day, gyroscopic compass by night. They saw mirages, salt pans that looked like lakes, dune chains as high as buildings. The men rationed water to mouthfuls. They crossed the Gilf Kabir Plateau, climbed wadis, skirted the Great Sand Sea, avoided British patrol zones, and moved through regions no European army had ever mapped. Almasi was in his element, reading dune slopes, navigating by stars, remembering Bedouin routes forgotten for centuries. After a week of driving, the desert began killing the trucks. Springs snapped. Fuel ran low. Almasi unearthed hidden caches he had buried on earlier expeditions. Blousy pits containing petrol sealed in drums covered with stones he alone remembered. Ultra-intercepts later showed the British never guessed. They believed an operation across the Great Sand Sea was impossible. But on May 23, 1942, after 3 weeks of grinding travel, Almasi delivered Epler and Sandstede to the Nile Valley near Asyut, behind all British defensive lines. He succeeded. Against every law of probability, he delivered 2 Axis spies into British Egypt undetected. The 2 spies took a train north toward Cairo, adopted their cover identities, rented rooms, and attempted to begin radio transmissions. They moved in Cairo society, visited nightclubs, mingled with British officers' circles. Yet their mission unraveled, not because of Almasi, but because of Epler's carelessness. He gambled, he bragged, he broadcast without proper security. British counterintelligence arrested them both and interrogated them under Section X. But Almasi was already long gone, recrossing the Sahara alone to return to Axis lines, a trek almost as dangerous as the first. He survived that too. He became one of the very few Axis operatives to survive a 3,000-mile desert infiltration and return alive. Rommel's intelligence dreams failed, but Almasi's achievement stood unmatched, crossing the largest desert on Earth to insert agents into the heart of enemy territory, a mission that by all rights should have killed him within days. He did it with 2 trucks, a compass, and a memory for desert landscapes that proved sharper than any map. The Sahara swallowed empires, armies, and expeditions, but not him. And in the long ledger of the Second World War, few operations demonstrated such skill, endurance, and sheer defiance of nature itself as Operation Salam. The impossible journey that should never have worked, yet did.